Hey guys, what's up? It's Alex or Nuzz here, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about ways you can make money on a budget in RuneScape 3. Now, this isn't going to be a specific money-making guide with specific methods, but more I'm going to talk about some examples and some different ways that I think you guys can make some money on a budget. So whenever I post videos, whether it be guides for higher level bosses or ways to make money, one of the most frequent comments I get is, "It sucks, I need to have billions and billions worth of gear or a maxed account to make good money." And while this does apply to a lot of different methods and bosses, there are still some amazing ways for you to make money on a budget or even on an account that doesn't have all the best abilities or stats unlocked. So in this video, I'm going to talk about a bunch of different ways and ideas kind of to make money even if you aren't the richest player or have the most skill at PvM. So if you like videos like this, make sure to subscribe because Wormbrain has been stuck in prison for many years in Port Sarim, and every subscriber gets him one step closer to being released. Let's get a hashtag free Wormbrain in the comments. Jokes aside, like the video if this helped you out, and let's get into it. So one of the main things I hear a lot is, I wish I could make money from doing PvM, but I just don't have the gear and I'm not super skilled at PvM. And honestly, that's totally fine. I always see this, and I'm not about to tell you to go try to learn Raksha in 20 mil gear. Is it possible? It definitely is possible, and I've done poor versus rich videos in the past where I would go and try bosses with cheap gear and I would still make a great amount of money. However, not everyone wants to do this. Often doing harder top tier bosses with lower tier gear is not only super hard, but sometimes it's just less fun and just more intense as you're getting slower kills, you're dealing slower damage, and you're probably risking death much more. So even though it is possible to do some of these higher level bosses with lower gear, you need more skill, and also it's just not as fun in my opinion. But something you can do is find other things and bosses that you can do with cheaper gear that can actually make you way more money than you might think. For example, a super easy boss you could do that I've done in the past is the Dagnauth Kings. I did a video recently that you guys really liked. It wasn't actually recently, it was like 5 months ago, feels recent, but it was a budget PvM video, and I started with 10 mil in gear and basic abilities, and I did Dagnauth Kings, and I made actually a really good amount of money. Seer's rings are going for over 20 mil each now, Berserker rings are almost 10 mil each, and Archer's rings are over 4 mil each. These drop very commonly at Dagnauth Kings, and it's somewhere that you can go with lower stats. You don't have to have max stats, you don't need overloads, you don't need all the best abilities. You could bring cheap gear and have the potential to make a really good amount of money, and it doesn't take much skill at all. So this not only applies to bosses like the Dagnauth Kings, but this applies to so many other things, like Slayer creatures for example. Like the Glacier Slayer creatures you can kill after Ritual of the Majorot quest, and they drop the Glacier boots, but more importantly, they drop Shards of Armadyl, which can be turned into the Armadyl Battle Staff, which if you didn't know, recently it's been being used a ton in high level PvM in an essence of finality because it's really good with the Fractured Staff of Armadyl. So this is an item that not many people are camping to make, but can make you upwards of 30 million GP per hour killing these Glaciers, and you don't need insane gear or anything like that to do these. People were doing these back in like 2014, 2015 with very low gear. So if you think about all the budget options available now, you can really do these with very cheap gear. Which brings me to kind of a bigger point of this video, and that is to try to find methods that aren't usually done, or try to think outside the box when you're looking for different ways to make money when you're on a budget. When you're on a budget, you can't do the prototypical meta things. I mean, you can do smaller things like skilling, but you can't go and kill super high tier bosses unless you're very good. So sometimes you have to kind of think outside the box. RuneScape is a game that does have a ton of people playing it, but RuneScape 3 has a little bit less people than you think when it comes to doing certain methods to make money. There are so many things you can do in RuneScape, and a lot of people just do bossing or PvM, that there are a lot of different things that people just aren't doing. I mean, think of very obscure methods, they're probably not being done that much. That's the whole reason the Armadyl Battle Staff has gone up in price, is because even though there's tons of people playing, there's probably not a ton of people farming the Armadyl Battle Staff, and people want this. For example, the reason Hellhounds went up so much in price is because the demand was very big for the pouches. Now the demand was big, but there just wasn't a ton of people making Hellhound binding contracts. I mean, most players in RuneScape 3 are just big PvMers. They'd rather kill big bosses and work on collection logs and do things like that than go and kill Hellhounds for hours on end, even if it's really good money. It's kind of the same reason with the Armadyl Battle Staff too. Not many people are willing to grind these obscure methods methods and they'd rather be doing something else, but these items are still in demand. So if you want to make good money, looking outside the box on a budget is really, really good. Your traditional methods of like killing corrupted creatures or skilling or camping God Wars 2, if you look outside those, you can find some great methods while on a budget to make you a lot of GP. I guarantee you there's many undiscovered methods that don't have super high tier requirements or don't require a ton of PVM skill that can make you like 50 mil or more per hour that there's people out there doing right now. So discovering your own methods by looking at monsters that may not be killed as much, looking at items that have risen in price, finding methods like that can really benefit you and make you a lot of money, especially when you're on a budget. It's how I stumbled into a lot of different methods in my latest video. So something else I want to talk about is the idea that you have to do stuff like PVM to make tons of money, especially while on a budget. For instance, clue scrolls are great money and I've talked about it before, but you don't actually have to go and do the highest tier of clues either. You don't have to sit there and farm elite clues all day. You can actually do something even like easy clues on a lower leveled account and make a really good amount of money with low requirements. So back to what I was talking about with discovering your own methods, if you're struggling to find a way to make money or find a good method for yourself with the gear or bank value that you have, try to focus on a singular item. So for example, if your goal is to make 100 mil, go look up different items that are worth 100 mil and think to yourself, which one of these could I basically get from scratch with my gear? For example, if you really wanted to make 50 mil for something, maybe you find, Cinderbane gloves, they're 50 mil. Am I able to do grove creatures with my gear? If the answer is yes, alright, I'm gonna camp these until I get a Cinderbanes as a drop. Maybe you want to make 200 mil, so you commit to camping revenants until you get a Stadius Warhammer drop. These are great things to think about to find different methods that you can do on a budget to get to your goal amount of money as soon as possible. But another big key is after you reach your goal of, let's say, 100 mil or 200 mil, whatever goal you want to reach, then you need to think about the next thing that you can start doing after building up that cash or buying a certain upgrade. So if you were someone that's broke but then made 200 mil, maybe now you can get enough gear to start doing God Wars 2 or running an elite dungeon. Then maybe you make a goal to do 50 runs of that elite dungeon with your gear. Then after that, maybe you're in a much better place with gear and can try to move on to something bigger. I find switching it up and trying to increase what I'm doing every time on a budget helps me make money much easier, and it's something I tried to do with things even when I was doing my from scratch video, where I started really low at something like Revenants to try to get a drop, and then after I made a good amount of money, then I tried to go and do bigger bosses. Something else that's extremely underrated that I know is talked about a lot, but I honestly feel like there's so many people that don't do this, is different types of dailies. And I'm not talking going and just doing, you know, the prototypical dailies like doing a farm run. I'm talking about dailies that are just too good to pass up, that no matter if you're a lower level account, a budget account, you should be doing these because you're going to make a ton of money. Things like Viswax are effectively like 40 mil per hour. You spend a few minutes and make like a mil. Something like doing penance powder that I talked about in my previous video, you can spend maybe 5 minutes on that and sometimes make 2 to 5 mil. Even doing things like shop runs to get runes and certain things that are more money like Feathers of Mott will take you a few minutes and you'll make a really nice amount. And especially on a budget, you don't need a ton of money to do this. So when you're trying to make that initial amount of money or trying to make money when you don't have that much, this is like a really low cost method that doesn't have too much requirements that you should definitely not sleep on. Even D&Ds that are done monthly, like the Giant Oyster is gonna get you, sometimes can get you like an easy 5 to 6 mil a month if you get some fortune components, possibly more if you get lucky, but if you reset it with a token, you can get some good money there. But when making money on a budget, you also have to consider how you spend your money on a budget. So sometimes people are on a budget and they're like, I don't have much money, I only have like, maybe they have like 200 mil and basically all they own is like a noxious staff, and they're like, I don't have gear that's good enough to do anything. When in reality, there's a lot of more budget gear that you can buy that isn't flashy, it isn't like a, you know, huge tier 92 weapon. You'd probably be better off having a solid set of tier 85 gear that's perked out correctly than going and just getting like a tier 90 staff and having kind of, you know, bad armor and stuff like that. So I'll leave a link below. I actually made a few videos on items that are budget that you can buy for PVM that can help you out if you know you want to get into try to do more bosses but you're on a budget. These items are cheap cheap for different styles, and it might help you out. So yeah, a bit of a different video, but I kind of wanted to make this because I get this comment a lot and I've seen it on a few of my guides for different bosses and stuff recently. So I thought maybe this could help some people that are more on a budget trying to, you know, make more money and find different ways to make money, because I know RuneScape is the most fun when you're doing and trying out different things. Doing the same thing over and over, at least for me, for too long just makes it kind of, you know, me feel burnt out more. So I thought it was maybe some good advice to help you guys out. If you enjoyed this video, again, a like would be appreciated. Subscribe if you haven't already, and a lot more videos to come. Have some great ideas on the way, so I'll see you all in the next one.